because I've got so many packs stockpiled. So I'm going to jump back in time to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Our lovely cowboy set. Repulse. Outlaws Fury. The Wolverine. Highway Robbery. Throw from the Saddle. We've got Badland Revival as one of our uncommons. 3 black-green for a sorcery. Return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. It's pretty cool. As a revival spell goes, it's pretty cool. Repulse. It's one of the bonus sheet cards from the Prosperity Post. 2 and a blue for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card. We then also got a Bounding Felidar, and our rare is Rakdos the Muscle. 2 black, black, red for a 6 power, 5 toughness, legendary creature, demon mercenary. Because we love our outlaws, he's got to be a mercenary. With flying and trample, and whenever you sacrifice another creature, exile cards equal to its mana value from the top of target player's library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards and you may spend mana as though it was mana of any type to cast those spells. It's a lot. Love pack openings. Yes. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed pack openings because you didn't miss it. Because I normally do it at the start, but I originally was like, I've only got 20 minutes to get in on a sealed event. And then I realised the sealed event was 1,500 gems and I didn't have that. So instead I went for draft. It also has the new version of Regenerate, which is you sacrifice a creature to give it indestructible and tap it. Give it indestructible until end of turn and tap it. And in Rakdos's regard, you can only activate it once each turn, because if you could activate it multiple times, you could just exile your opponent's entire deck with this one card, and like some way of like whenever you sacrifice a creature, get a 1/1 or whatever it is. You could just be like, or whenever you sacrifice an opponent, make a mana, and then there's the 1-drop skeleton that's like a 1-drop 2/1. So you'd sacrifice the 2/1, and it returns for a black mana whenever you commit a crime. So you'd exile the 2/1, you'd then exile the top card of your opponent's library with the Rakdos ability. That would count as committing a crime. So your 2/1 skeleton would go, do you want me to return back for a black mana? And because you would then generate a mana when you sacrifice the creature, you'd go, yeah, I totally do. Come back. Do it again. And just loop infinitely. But luckily you need other cards to be able to do that. Our Aether Drift pack, we've got a whole bunch of stuff we've seen before, and our rare is Basri, Tomorrow's Champion. For 1 white mana, he's a legendary creature, human knight, 1 power, or 2 power, 1 toughness, sorry. For white and tap and exert Basri, which means he doesn't untap in the next untap step, you create a 1/1 white cat creature token with lifelink. He makes cats made of sand. He also has cycling, which means you can discard this card for its cycling cost to draw a card. And normally cycling costs are pretty cheap. They're like 1 mana, 2 mana, that sort of thing. Unless they're cycling for a specific thing. But in this case, it's just 2 and a white. But also, the reason it's 2 and a white is because when you cycle this card, cats you control get hexproof and indestructible. So he makes cats, he cares about cats, and he can also protect all your cats by running away, discarding himself. We then have our Target Dragonstorm pack. We've got a whole bunch of stuff we've seen before. Cat. Rot-Cursed Rakshasa. I was about to also say cat, and then I remembered that they errated the Rakshasa to no longer be cats. They're just demons now. Because Rakshasa from Indian folklore, I want to say it's Indian folklore, Mongolian folklore, I'm not 100%, but they're not cats. It was D&D, it was Dungeons and Dragons that made them look like leopards with a backwards hand, or backwards hands. Made them look like tigers with backwards hands. And that's not how they're represented. So Magic kind of adopted them being cat demons from Dungeons and Dragons. And then more recently they've been like, we're going to stop making them cats because it's not accurate. Anyway, Brockhurst Rakshasa for 1 and a black. It is a 5 power, 5 toughness creature demon with trample and decayed. So decayed is when a creature with decayed can't block, and when it deals damage you sacrifice it, or when it attacks you sacrifice it at the end of combat. Me reading the rules text and being like very specific about timing. It then also has a renew ability, which was a mechanic from this set specifically. For X black black, you exile this card from your graveyard. You put a decayed counter on each of X target creatures, and you can activate this only as a sorcery. So renewed was a thing that's like, you pay a cost, you exile this card to give its abilities to other creatures. The Rock-Cursed Rakshasa is good because it's 2 mana for 1 hit of 5, effectively, because it then sacrifices itself. But then later on you can be like, and then I make it so that you'll have to sacrifice all your own creatures, or all of your creatures can't block now, so that I can then get in for a lethal swing. That's why it's a mythic, because it's very good at like just being like, I win this combat, because you can't block me, you can't stop me. Got ya. It's there for big got ya moments. Gotcha moments. Are these cards only in the game, or are they real cards you can pull? So all of those, these are all, other than Through the Omen Paths, are actual sets of actual cards you can actually get in Magic the Gathering. The Through the Omen Paths is what they did for the Spider-Man set, because they couldn't get the licensing for Spider-Man on their online arena. So while they had a license to make the Spider-Man cards in person, and we have Spider-Man sets, they had to remake the entire set for Arena and change the flavour of every single card. So when I get to those 2 packs, I will try and remember what the Spider-Man card versions of them are. So Edge of Eternities was our space-themed set that we got. We got a Banishing Light. Don't know how that's my first Banishing Light. I guess it's my first Banishing Light with this artwork. Divert Disaster, Auxiliary Boosters, Slag Drill Scrapper. We have an Honor. We have a Radiant Strike. We have an uncommon wild card. And our rare or mythic is a Godless Shrine. It is the white-black Shockland, which is quite nice because the Lorwyn Eclipsed set has the other cycle of Shocklands. So we did get all 10 Shocklands in the past couple of sets. I say past couple of in-universe sets, because between Edge of Eternities and Lorwyn, we had Avatar and Spider-Man, neither of which had Shocklands. But yeah, so Godless Shrine, land, plains, swamp. This land enters the battlefield either tapped or you pay 2 life. And it taps for either colour because it is a plains and a swamp. So it being a swamp allows it to tap for black, and it being a plains allows it to tap for white. Those are just intrinsic abilities of those land types. Which I find quite funny, because it means you can get printings of the Shocklands where it just has like the name of the Shockland, land, and the 2 types, and then as this enters you may pay 2 if you don't enter as tapped. The rest of the text you don't need to write on the card. It just helps players know what it does if you put it on there. Is why most Shocklands have that there. Okay. Distinctly different from Spider-Man, the set. Oh gosh. Immediately opened up the packs and was like, I don't remember these. I don't remember these. I want to say that was like something to do with Doc Ock. It was something to do with Doc Ock, I think. The Data Scrubber was... can't remember. Damning Caress was like Venom's something? Venom's Scorn, Venom's Hunger, something like that. The spell costs 2 less if you control a villain, and you destroy target creature and you gain 2 life. The Vinewoven Chariot was the New York subway. It was a train. I don't remember what. They need a Spooderman card. They do need a Spooderman card. They have plenty. They've got like Bagman as a card. It's a promo. of one of the Spider-Man cards. Costume Closet was just Costume Closet, but they've just changed the artwork for it because it was obviously a bunch of Spider-Man costumes in a wardrobe. So they've made it Murders of Karlov Manor and just be like, look, it's a fancy mansion and this ghost is here making dresses. Ooh. Nil Vessel of Valgoth was Tombstone, I want to say. 2 and a black legendary creature, human villain. 2 power, 2 toughness. When he enters, return target villain card from your graveyard to your hand. Villain spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. We have a common wild card. And our rare is the Watcher on the Road, which is a Mysterio. Because it makes illusion villains. So 3 and a blue for 3 power, 3 toughness. Legendary creature, human villain. When the Watcher on the Road enters, create a 3/3 blue illusion villain creature token for each non-token... Oh gosh. Sorry, hiccups out of nowhere. Create a 3/3 blue illusion villain creature token for each non-token villain you control. Speaking promo card, have you seen the new promo card for the 30-year Pokemon Elite Trainer box? I haven't. I don't keep up to date with Pokemon trading card games because I don't play the Pokemon trading card game. Unfortunately, sorry, I don't. I imagine it is very cool looking though. If it's a 30-year anniversary card, I can imagine that is incredibly fancy. Our other Spider-Man pack, we got Sinister Hideout. That's exactly as it is. We got Treats Trolley, which I want to say was Hot Dog Cart. Like it was a New York City hot dog cart. Again, that's the Venom's Hunger, I want to say. Clandestine Work. I don't know what that was. Not sure on that one. Banemarked Leonin, a symbiote cat villain. I think that was... the Venom Cat. It's the Venom Cat. I don't remember what it's called. Why am I blanking on what it's called? Is it just Venomized Cat? Surely not. Zakao? Predation's Shadow is some kind of Craven the Hunter. A 6/7 human villain, vigilance, trample, haste. When he attacks, if you've cast a spell of mana value 4 or greater this turn, draw a card. For 3 red, green. Some kind of Craven the Hunter. The Clutter Cluster was Spider's Man. The Spider-Man made out of spiders. If the leak is true, you might add there. It's a team-up card with the first 3 starters in the pixel art from the first game. That sounds very cool. That does sound very, very cool. But yeah, Spider's Man. Oh god. This was a version of Spider-Man, but this is the Spider-Man that's Doc Ock as a Spider-Man, I want to say. But I can't remember what he's called. Again, my Spider-Man knowledge is not amazing. When they come out with an X-Men set, I'll be much better at that one. But I don't think we're getting many X-Men in the Marvel superhero set that's coming out this year. Although I am looking forward to that as well, quite a lot. So Cavero, Mind Bitten, 2 blue-black, legendary creature, human, spider human hero. Maybe it's not the... No, I think it definitely is the Spider-Man. The Doc Ock Spider-Man. 4 power, 4 toughness. You may have him enter as a copy of any creature card in your graveyard, notably not your graveyard, in any creature in a graveyard. Except his name is Cavero Mindbitten, and he's a 4/4 spider human hero, in addition to his other types, when you do exile that card. So he comes in and goes, I'm that thing. They're dead, but I'm them. I have their memories. Then we've got 18 packs of Avatar to open, but I'm just going to quick fire open all of them. Open 10 of them at a time. And just read out the new ones and the rares. I'm going to scroll back through all these packs. So we got plenty of lands, that's all good. We got a bunch of lessons, that's quite nice. We've got multiple mongoose lizards. So mongoose lizard is 4 red, red for a creature mongoose lizard. Surprising nobody. 5 power, 6 toughness, menace. When this creature enters, it deals 1 damage to any target, and it has mountain cycling for 2. So you can discard this card by spending 2 mana to draw a mount, or to search your library for a mountain card, reveal it, put it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Notably, it's not basic mountain cycling, so you could use this to go and get the Shocklands from the new set, which is pretty cool. Just sucks you probably have to pre-order from a dude again, because probably ain't going to be sold in your area. Yeah. Promos being limited to like part of the world that they're being made in is like, oh, really? There's a bunch of old Magic cards that are in Japanese only, because they were made as like promos for Japan because we want Japan to play our American card game. And I'm collecting a specific type of card. I have a folder with every Angel artwork from Magic the Gathering. It's a little bit out of date because some of the newer sets had some incredibly expensive Angel cards, and I did not have the money for them. I do not have the money for them. Correction. And yeah, some of the ones that I've had to import across from Japan is just like, ooh. It's a lot. It's expensive. We've got Rumble. Anyway, sorry. Random side tangent. We've got Rumble Arena, a land with vigilance, so it really wants to be earthbent. When this land enters, you scry 1, so it really wants to be earthbent. It taps for colourless, and for 1 and tap, you can filter your mana. Basically, you turn a colourless into a mana of any colour. Or it's a generic, so you turn one of your manas into a different mana. We have Ostrich Horse, 2 and a green for a creature bird horse, because ostrich isn't a creature type in this game. 3 power, 1 toughness. When this enters, mill 3 cards. You move a land card from among them into your hand. If you don't, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Not bad. It's kind of mana ramp. It's not mana ramp. It's kind of mana fetching. Kind of. We then got Rebellious Captives. 1 and a green for a creature human peasant ally. 2 power, 2 toughness. Has exhaust, which means you can only use this ability once. And the exhaust ability is 6 mana. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature, then Earthbend 2. So Earthbend is you put... It's Earthbend X or Earthbend N, where you then put N +1/+1 counters on the land you control, and it becomes a 0/0 with haste. That when it dies or is exiled, you return it to the battlefield tapped. So, bought a Chinese gift box. The shipping cost is as much as the box. Yeah, that tends to be the case. Like if you buy them officially, it ends up just being incredibly expensive. We have Fire Nation Raider, 3 and a red for a creature human soldier, 4 power, 2 toughness. It has raid because it is a raider. When this creature enters, if you attack this turn, create a clue token. Not terrible. We then get to our uncommons with Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper. Foggy Swamp Spirit Keeper. What a great name. 1 blue-black for a creature human druid ally. 2 power, 4 toughness, lifelink. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 1/1 colourless spirit creature token with. This token can't be blocked by non-spirit creatures. So effectively these tokens have Spirit Shadow. Can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. That's kind of cool. I like that. Making tokens that can only interact with each other because they're in the spirit realm. We also have Rock Avalanche, 2 and a green, sorcery lesson. It earthbends X, where X is the number of forests you control, and has flashback for 5 and a green. It's pretty good. We have Long Fang, Grand Secretariat. Secretariat? one generic and 2 Golgari hybrid mana. So 1 black or green. Legendary creature, human advisor, 2 power, 3 toughness. It has whenever another creature you control or a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. They quite like being earthbent or having earthbent stuff happening around them. You only pay $10 in shipping for the box from England, and then probably like 90 something for the box from China. Yeah, tends to be the way. We have Accumulate Wisdom, 1 and a blue for an instant lesson. You look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You put each of those cards into your hand instead if there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard. Nice. So you look at the top 3 cards, then you check your graveyard to be like, are there 3 lessons in my graveyard? If there are, you just go, cool, all those cards go into my hand. If there aren't 3 lessons in your graveyard, then you go, okay, which one of these cards do I want to keep? The rest then go on the bottom of the library. We have Sokka's Haiku, which is a great piece of design space. Firstly, the Avatar episode where Sokka makes haikus is kind of funny. It's a nice, good little reference. But 3 blue, instant lesson. And the rules text is a haiku. Counter target spell, draw a card, then mill 3 cards. Untap target land. It's such a nice little concise. We've made Sokka's haiku a haiku because we couldn't not. And also it's just like a good card. Counter target spell, draw a card, mill 3 cards, untap target land. It's just pretty good in this set. While also being an instant speed lesson, so it also triggers your other lesson matters stuff. Like untapping your land cares about if you've got like Earthbend or fancy lands. Countering spells are always strong. Drawing a card then milling 3 cards is pretty alright. Drawing a card's good. Milling 3 cards is kind of meh. And just the fact that it's a lesson itself is pretty good. We then have Gran. For blue, Gran is a legendary creature, human peasant ally, 1 power, 2 toughness, and whenever Gran becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, as long as there are 3 or more lesson cards in your graveyard. So Gran loves lessons and loves being tapped. So part of me would love to build a Gran lesson Convoke deck, but I don't think there are any lessons with Convoke. So that's kind of a weird, non-applicable crossover. We have Fancy Footwork. 2 and a white for instant lesson. Untap up to 1. Untap 1 or 2 target creatures, so up to 2 target creatures. They each get +2/+2 until end of turn. Nice. Good little combat trick. We have Cat Gator, which is meant to be a catfish alligator. So it's a creature fish crocodile, 3 power, 2 toughness, for 6 and a black. It has lifelink, and when this creature enters, it deals damage equal to the number of swamps you control to any target. Which is really good because it has lifelink. So if you're just playing lots of swamps, if you're playing mono black, this comes down on turn 7 when you've got 7 swamps. And 7's something and gains you 7 life, and then it's just a life-linking 3/2 that just sits there and goes, fight me. Okay, rares. We have Iroh, Grand Lotus. 3 green, blue, red for a legendary creature, human noble ally, 5 power, 5 toughness. Has firebending 2, which means when it attacks, you add 2 red mana to your mana pool, and that mana doesn't empty until the end of combat. And then during your turn, each non-lesson instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. And then also during your turn, each lesson card in your graveyard has flashback for 1. So flashback just allows you to play the cards again, and then when you cast them, they go to exile instead. So your lessons have flashback for 1, your non-lessons have flashback for whatever they cost normally. The gift box had this cool golden charm, so it was kind of worth it. Nice. That's pretty cool. We have Soka Bold Boomeranger for blue-red. Legendary creature, human warrior ally. 1 power, 1 toughness. When Soka enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. And whenever you cast an artifact or lesson spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Soka. We then have Firelord Zuko. Red, white, black. Legendary creature, human noble ally. 2 power, 4 toughness. Firebending X, where X is Firelord Zuko's power. So he makes a whole bunch of red mana. And whenever you cast a spell from exile, and whenever a permanent you control enters from exile, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Interesting. I'm sure there's a deck you could build with that. Like a bunch of stuff that's like a bunch of the firebending stuff, and then a bunch of the stuff that's like when this thing attacks or when this thing deals combat damage, you exile cards off the top of your opponent's deck, and then you can play them for as long as they remain exiled. And may spend mana as though it were mana of any colour. So you spend all the red firebending mana to cast the spells that you're stealing from your opponent's deck. We have Tiger Seal. Oh my gosh. So quite often they put sound effects to cards based on their types for the most part. So in regards to Tiger Seal, it is a cat seal. So it made a cat sound effect and then a seal sound effect, and I didn't know they'd added a seal sound effect to the game, because they clearly did it just for Tiger Seal. Because all cats go meow or meow. But because it's not just a cat, they had to then make a seal sound effect. Purely for Tiger Seal. Good, good. Tiger Seal. Creature cat seal, as explained. For blue, it is 3 power, 3 toughness, vigilant, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you tap this creature. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you untap this creature. It's quite funny, quite an interesting card. We then have Soka Tenacious Tactician, 1 blue, red, white. For a legendary creature, human warrior ally, 3 power, 3 toughness, menace, prowess. Your other allies you control have menace and prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make a 1/1 white ally creature token. It's pretty good. We then have Katara, Water Tribe's Hope. 2 white, blue, blue. Legendary creature, human warrior ally. 3 power, 3 toughness, vigilance. And when Katara enters, you make a 1/1 white ally creature token. And then she has Waterbend X, where... So waterbending is you can tap your creatures and artifacts to pay for this cost as well. To like sort of convoke and improvise strapped together. So the Waterbend X, you can then tap X creatures or artifacts or lands or any combination thereof. Creatures you control have base power and toughness X, X until end of turn. X can't be 0, just that you can't board wipe yourself. For whatever reasons you would want to do that. And you can activate only during your turn. Pretty good. We then have Toph. Toph Fire the First Metal Bender. 1 red, green, white, legendary creature, human warrior ally. 3 power, 3 toughness. Non-token artifacts you control are lands in addition to their other types. They don't gain abilities to tap for mana because they don't gain land types. At the beginning of your end step, you earthbend 2. So you can then put counters on your artifacts. I've got a Toph deck on this. Also notably, the whole of the Avatar crew, when they're 3 colour, or when they're at this stage, they're all 3/3s, which I find kind of cool. Oh, all the 3 colour ones are also 3/3s. Katara the Fearless, green, white, blue, legendary creature, human warrior ally, 3 power, 3 toughness. If a triggered ability of an ally you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Very good. Ally Panharmonicon. We then have Ran and Shaw. 3 Red, red for a legendary creature dragon. 4 power, 4 toughness, flying, firebending 2. When Ran and Shaw enters, if you cast them and there are 3 or more dragons and or lesson cards in your graveyard, you create a token that's a copy of Ran and Shaw, except it's not legendary. And then for 2 and a red, they give dragons you control +2/+0 until end of turn. It's a lot. So if you've been playing dragons and lessons and a bunch of them in your graveyard, you effectively get 2 4/4 flying firebending 2 dragons that when you attack with them both, you get 4 red mana that can then be used to pump all your dragons. So they become 6. These 2 of these become 6/4s. It's pretty great. Our mythic. Boomy Unleashed. 3 red, green, legendary creature, human noble ally. 5 power, 4 toughness, trample. When Boomy enters, earthbend 4. When Boomy deals combat damage to a player, you untap all lands you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Only land creatures can attack during this combat phase. So Boomy Unleashed does go infinite. If you can get Boomy to connect without dying, and you've got, say, a thing that makes them a land creature, then it untaps itself and you can just hit with it again, which then untaps itself and gives you another combat, and then you can hit with it again, and then it untaps it. It just keeps going. As long as you can get the damage in without Boomy dying, you can just keep going. Let's open the rest of these avatar packs. Whee! Bunch more. We quickly scroll back. We got a couple of lands that we didn't have yet. It's quite nice. We have Pirate Peddlers, 2 and a black for a creature human pirate, 2 power, 2 toughness, death touch, and whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Not bad. We've got another Pirate Peddlers. June Bounty Hunter, 1 and a black for a legendary creature human mercenary, 2 power, 2 toughness. June can't be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, and 1 and sacrifice another creature, create a 1/1 clue token, activate only during your turn. So the clue token can then draw you your second card to make her unblockable. It's pretty cool, as long as you're doing the sacrifice a creature every turn. Not bad. Yeah, it doesn't even say non-token creature. You can just turn your creatures into clues. Yeah. Seismic Sense. Sorcery lesson for green. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Pretty nice. We have Heartless Act. This is a reprint from an older set. 1 and a black. For an instant, you choose 1. You either destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove 3 counters from target creature. So this has been reprinted in this set because it has some weird interactions with earthbending creatures, where you can be like, okay, I remove the counters and that thing then is either smaller or goes away. Or if they're not playing earthbending, you can still just use it as a, we haven't got any counters on that creature, so that goes away. Sorry, yawn there. My brain's slowly turning off because of the massive reading. Waterbending Scroll, 1 and a blue. You never knew how big the Avatar franchise is. You thought it was just a show from TV. It basically was. It was just a very popular show on TV that a lot of the fans of Avatar also play Magic the Gathering. So they were then like, yeah, sure, why not? We'll get Avatar in our Magic the Gathering. So Waterbending Scroll, 1 and a blue for an artifact. Also notably, there is a new Avatar series that's kind of been spoiled, and the spoilers for that came out alongside this set, which is kind of cool. Like Magic's been doing that recently, where they've been doing like we're making cross-platform IPs to line up with these other products or other companies' new releases, so that sort of the hype for the new thing comes out and people can be like, oh, that thing was really cool. I want to know more about that. I want to do more with that thing. And I can, because there's a game called Magic the Gathering, which is super popular, and I can play the cards that relate to the thing that I was interested in. So they're kind of doing it as like a push for bringing new people into the game, while also just being like, some of their more versatile enfranchised players are like, oh, I really like this thing, so I'm cool that it's now in Magic and I can just play it. It's just they've kind of struggled with the plan for that for a long time, that a lot of the people who are like really invested in the game have been a bit hit or miss with Universes Beyond because of just how they've implemented it in the past. And they're still kind of struggling to get its feet under it. Like even how they ended up with the Spider-Man set that originally wasn't a standard set. Then they kind of chucked a bunch of extra cards in there to make it a standard set, but then couldn't get it on Arena. So now they've got this huge disparity between like people who learn by playing Magic from Arena not being able to find the cards that they're like, that thing's really cool, I want to build that as a deck in real life. And then they can't because that card doesn't exist in real life because it's actually a Spider-Man. Or something like it's a Kraven the Hunter. And it's like, oh, well, I'm less fussed about Kraven the Hunter. I'm kind of wishing I could have just had the in-universe version. And it's like, nope, you can't. Sorry. Unless you print it off yourself or proxy it yourself, you can't just have that card in paper. And then similarly, people who are like, I really like the Spider-Man stuff, might buy some Spider-Man cards and then come to Arena to be like, oh, I can play these in this game, because a lot of Magic the Gathering booster packs have Arena adverts in them. And then none of the Spider-Man cards are on Arena because they've all been changed to different things. And then people are like, wait, where are my Spider-Man cards? Can I not play Spider-Man on Arena? And it's like, you kind of can, but not at the same time. But yeah, enough of that. I don't like complaining too much about it, but there is a lot of gripe to be had. I'm just not that, like, I'm enjoying the Universes Beyond stuff. There are a couple of hiccups, as a want to be whenever you try and change a system. And especially like Magic the Gathering, their player base is very vocal about their opinions. So regardless of how the game changes, a lot of the time it's just like, we've made this new thing to try and encourage people to play the game differently. And there'll just be a bunch of complaints online of people being like, they've ruined Magic the Gathering forever. It's like, okay, you can believe that if you want, but come this time next year, you'll still be playing it, so it's fine. Or you will have fallen out of it, but then just been constantly like, I want to play Magic still. Anyway, Waterbending Scroll. 1 and a blue for an artifact. 6 and tap, draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each island you control. So the more islands you have, the easier it is to waterbend. Or to learn waterbending, I guess. To read this scroll. We then have a Katara Water Tribe's Hope again. We have a rare wild card. We have a Fire Lord Zuko again. We have an Airbender Ascension. The Ascensions are very cool. So they made a cycle of Ascension cards in this set that are meant to be kind of representative of the old Ascension cards in the Innistrad set, where whenever you do set thing, you put quest counters on it, and then when it's got so many quest counters, it becomes better. So the Airbender Ascension, this one here, for 1 and a white, it's an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, you airbend up to 1 target creature. And then whenever a creature you control enters, you put a quest counter on this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, you exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So, Airbend is you exile a permanent card, and then if that card is exiled this way, its owner can pay 2 mana to replay it, effectively. So, you can cast the Airbending Ascension to get rid of one of their things for a bit, or you can cast the Airbending Ascension and get one of your things to go away and then pay for it to come back, which then will put a quest counter on this if it's a creature and get any of its into the battlefield effects. And then when you've got a bunch of quest counters, you can just kind of flicker your own creatures. So this goes really well in a deck that just has a bunch of enter the battlefield things. It's just quite good for that. We then have Redirect Lightning, a lesson that can change the target spell. We have another Katara the Fearless. We have the Mechanist, Aerial Artisan, 2 and a blue for a 1 power, 3 toughness, legendary creature human artificer ally. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a clue token. And you may tap the Mechanist, and until end of turn, target artifact token you control becomes a 3/1 construct artifact creature token with flying. So he makes the clues into little flying machines. But he also makes clues whenever you cast non-creature spells. So you can make it an instant sorcery deck and then just use him to turn your clues into 3/1 flyers. Or you can make it like an artifact, non-creature artifact deck and use him to turn those artifacts into creatures. And then we have a mythic wild card. And finally, we're back to Lorwyn Eclipsed. Let's crack open 10 packs and start reading out a whole bunch of cards. I've just run out of drink. I'm definitely going to need more drink if I'm doing all this reading. It's a lot of reading. Okay. Gilt-Leaf's Embrace. 2 and a green for an enchantment aura with flash, which means you can cast it at instant speed. Enchant creature. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gains trample and indestructible intellect. So I'm a bit of a goof there. I muted myself because I was coughing, and then I gave a little spiel about how I was going to go away and get a drink while the ad break was on. Hadn't unmuted myself. So I was like, I'm just going to go and grab a drink and then I'll come back and unmute myself and explain it. Sorry if it seemed like I was having a bit of a coughing fit. It wasn't that. It was me going and getting another drink because I was having a coughing fit, basically. Anyway, Gilt-Leaf's Embrace. Now that we're actually back, Gilt-Leaf's Embrace. Welcome back from the ad break. Hopefully people are... No, that's the ad break starting, not finishing. Weird. Okay. Yes, so Flash gives trample and indestructible to the creature, and then enchanted creature gets +2/+0. Not terrible. It protects a creature, makes it win a combat, and get extra damage through. Not terrible. As a combat trick, it's pretty good. As an aura, it's kind of mediocre, but I guess a combat trick in an aura deck is just something you don't really get. So I guess it's quite good there. Confusing times. Sorry about that. Scarblade's Malice. An instant for black. Target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, you make a 2/2 black and green elf creature token. And there's the token there, with some great Pete Venters art. We have a Reckless Ransacking, an instant for 1 and a red. Target creature gets +3/+2 until end of turn. You create a treasure token. We have a Stratosaura, 4 and a blue for a creature elemental, 3 power, 5 toughness, flying. When this creature enters, target creature gains flying until end of turn. It has basic land cycling, 1 and a blue. We then have a Foraging Wickermore, 2-drop, artifact creature Scarecrow, 1 power, 3 toughness. Whenever this creature enters, you surveil 1, and for 1, you add 1 mana of any colour. This creature becomes that colour until end of turn. Activate only once each turn. That's pretty cool. You can filter your land and also trigger Vivids by being like, this creature is now this colour. Ta-da! It's just a little bit awkward that it's like, this creature is now this colour because I'm not playing cards of this colour. Now I want to play the Vivid spell and I have to use that off-coloured piece of mana for it. Crossroads Watcher, 2 and a green for a creature Kithkin Ranger, 3 power, 3 toughness, trample, and whenever another creature you control enters, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It's a very odd artwork there. Like, the proportions of this Kithkin are all over the shop. But then Kithkin are just a bit weirdly shaped. But then there's also that little Stout Hawk thing, which is adorable. Stout Hawk. Yeah. We then have Feed the Flames, 3 and a red for an instant. Deals 5 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Welcome back from the outbreak, everybody. I've just been reading cards and confusing myself for the most part. Bog Slither's Embrace, 1 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, blight 1 or pay 3. Exile target creature. Not bad. We have Furdock's Core, 3 mana for a Kindred Artifact Shapeshifter with Changeling. It taps for 1 mana of any colour, and for 4 untap, it becomes a 4/4 creature until end of turn, while retaining the fact that it's a Changeling, so it is all creature types. It's pretty cool. Timid Shieldbearer, 1 and a white for a creature Kithkin Soldier, 2 power, 2 toughness, and for 4 and white, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Not bad. Pretty good way to just be like, I've dumped my entire hand and now I've got a bunch of mana that I'm sat on, so I'm just going to pump my team. Wildvine Pummeler, 6 and a green for a creature Giant Berserker, 6 power, 5 toughness. It has Vivid, so it costs the Vivid is a kind of flavor ability, where it's just like, it cares about the colours among permanents you control. So in regards to this giant, it's this spell costs 1 less for each colour among permanents you control. It then also has Reach and Trample. It's a big old punchy giant. We then have the Surly Farrier, 1 and a green for a creature Kithkin Citizen, 2 power, 2 toughness, and it has tap. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. We then also have a Summit Sentinel, 1 and a blue for a creature elemental soldier, 1 power, 3 toughness, and when this creature dies, you draw a card. We then have a Wild Unraveling, blue for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may blight 2 or pay 1. Counter target spell. Not bad. It's regular counter spell. It's regular. Oh gosh, what's the 3 mana counter spell? What's the standard 3 mana counter spell? That's 1 blue counter target spell. Nope. Blanking on it. Completely blanking on it. Anyway. Riverguard's Reflexes. 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains first strike until end of turn. Untap it. That's a pretty good merfolk combat trick. Another Scarblade's Malice, another Wildvine Pummeler, another Summit Sentinel, another Foraging Wickermore. We have a Shore Lurker, 3 and a white for a creature Merfolk Scout. 3 power, 3 toughness, flying, and when this creature enters, you surveil 1. So you can look at the top card of your library, you can put it back on top or into your graveyard. We have Dream Caesar, 3 and a black for a creature Fairy Rogue. 3 power, 2 toughness, flying, and when this creature enters, you may blight 1. If you do, each opponent discards a card. We then have another Summit Sentinel, another Wild Unraveling, Evolving Wilds, a Feed the Flames, a Gangly Stomper, which is 2 and a Gruul hybrid, so red or green, for a creature Shapeshifter with Changeling, 4 power, 2 toughness, and it also has Trample. It's just a big old jelly giant. Stomp, stomp, stomp. We have another Reckless Ransacking. We have an Elder Auntie, 2 and a red, for a creature Goblin Warlock. When this creature enters, you create a 1/1 black and red Goblin creature token. And she is a 2/2. 2 power, 2 toughness. We have another Guildleaf's Embrace. We have Tend the Sprigs. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Then if you control 7 or more lands and or tree folks, create a 3/4 green tree folk creature token with reach. We then have a Prideful Feastling, 2 and a Azorius hybrid, white or black, for a creature shapeshifter with Changeling, 2 power, 3 toughness, and this one has lifelink. There's like a kind of cycle of these hybrid mana changelings that are just like, they're a changeling, they have a hybrid mana pip, they have an ability. So like this one has lifelink, the gangly one has trample, the red-white one has first strike, the green-blue one has reach, and the blue-black one has flash. I think that's all of them. Yeah, I think that's the cycle. Yeah, they're all like, to work with Vivid, they're all the off-color hybrid pips. It's quite cool. Nightmare Sower, 3 and a black for a creature Fairy Assassin, 2 power, 3 toughness, flying, lifelink, and whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It's really good. It's really good. I need to get that for my fairy deck. Rhyme Chill, 6 and a blue for an instant with Vivid. This one also works like the Giant, where it costs 1 less for each colour among permanents you control. It's tap 2 target creatures, put a stun counter on each of them, and then draw a card. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now we have an Impolite Entrance. Red for a sorcery. Target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn. Draw a card. Not bad. We have Wonderwine Farewell. 5 blue for a Kindred Sorcery Merfolk. It has Convoke. It has return 1 or 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Then, if you control a Merfolk, create a 1/1 white and blue Merfolk creature token for each permanent returned to its owner's hand this way. Fairy deck. It's a fairy assassin, not furries. Fairies, F-A-E-R-I-E, or if you want to be particular, F-A-I-R-Y. There's 2 different spellings. One of them is more Celtic Gaelic. One of them is more British English / Americanism, I think. Anyway, carrying on. Moonlit Lamenter, 2 and a white for a creature treefolk cleric. 2 power, 5 toughness. This creature enters with a -1/-1 counter on it. And for 1 and a white, you can remove a counter from this creature to draw a card. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is quite a good thing to put blight counters onto. because then it can always just keep taking them off again to draw a card again, which is pretty good. Giant Fall, 1 and a white for an instant. Choose one. Either target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So it's a one-sided fight, a bit of a punch. Or you destroy target artifact, which is a smash to smithereens. So it's a smash or a punch. Pretty good. Pyrrhic Strike. I think that's how you say that. 2 and a white for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may Blight 2. Choose one. If this spell's an additional cost was paid, choose both instead. So you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. You can destroy target creature with mana value 3 or greater. Or if you did the Blight 2, you can pick both. So you could blow up an artifact and a big creature, or an enchantment and a big creature. So that's pretty cool. Kinsbale Aspirant. Speaking of weirdly proportioned Kithkin as we were earlier. White mana for a creature Kithkin citizen. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you behold a Kithkin or pay 2. It is 2 power, 1 toughness. Whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So Behold is also a new thing in this. Behold was a new thing in the. It's been a mechanic of the game for a long time. It got named Behold with Tarko Dragonstorm, where you had a bunch of cards that were like Behold a Dragon. And the way Behold works is whatever the thing is it's asking for, you either choose one that you control on the board or reveal one from your hand. So in this case, you behold a Kithkin by choosing a Kithkin you control or revealing a Kithkin from your hand to make this not cost 3 mana, effectively. It's not bad. Noggle Robber, 1 and 2 Gruul hybrids, so red, green, red, green. Creature Noggle Rogue, so the Noggle in this set are like, if you imagine Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, the character, is it Puck? It is Puck? The fairy who gets turned into a donkey, if I'm remembering that correctly. I could be getting the name wrong. But Noggles are like donkey fae creatures, like people who have been turned into donkeys. It's quite funny, bit of a weird corner case of lore. But yeah, Noggle Robber is a 3 power, 3 toughness. When this creature enters or dies, you create a treasure token. Because they are a robber, they are a thief. We have a Tanafel Rhyme Speaker, 3 and a blue for a creature elemental wizard. 2 power, 4 toughness, and when you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card. Not terrible. Wants you to cast big spells to draw cards. It's pretty good. Like if you're playing a big spells deck, it could be a big creatures deck as well. It's just whenever you cast a spell, creature spells are spells. Yeah, so in a creature deck, in a big creature deck, it's also pretty good. And 4 isn't that high of a mana cost, in all honesty. Sorry about that. We have a Gnarlbark Elm, 2 and a black for a creature Treefolk Warlock, 3 power, 4 toughness. It enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. But for 2 and a black, you can remove 2 counters from this creature to give target creature -2/-2 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So this again is quite a reasonable target to blight onto, but really you have to get rid of the 2 counters to give the -2/-2. Then you can start blighting onto it. And every 2 counters you can just be like, okay, take them off again. We have Pummeler for Hire, 4 and a green for a creature giant mercenary, 4 power, 4 toughness. Vigilance, Reach, Ward 2. When this creature enters, you gain X life, where X is the greatest power among giants you control. Pretty good. Pretty good for an uncommon. We have Eclipsed Flamekin. The Eclipsed cards are a very cool cycle. So there are 1 in each of the primary kindred of this set. So this is the elemental one, But all of them have, when this creature enters, they have different stats, but they all have, when this creature enters, you look at the top 4 cards of your library, you either reveal one of the 2 land types that you would have been using to cast it, or the creature type that it is, and put that card into your hand, and the rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. So in the case of Eclipsed Flamekin, that casts for blue-red, so islands and mountains, and it is an elemental, so you look at the top 4 cards of your library, you may reveal an elemental, an island, or a mountain card from among them, put it into your hand, and the rest go on the bottom in a random order. They're pretty cool. And then, like, the Eclipsed Kithkin, I think, is like a 3/2 for 2 Selesnya hybrid pips, and it searches for a Kithkin, a forest, or a plains. Or it goes down the top 4, forest, plains, Kithkin, put it into your hand, rest go on the bottom. That's sort of how they work. We have an Iron Shield Elf. We got to see these in the game that we played against the Elf Bull deck. 1 and a black for a creature, Elf Warrior, 3 power, 1 toughness. You can discard a card to give this creature indestructible until end of turn and tap it. So it's got the new form of regenerate for discarding a card. Our rares. Oh, here's one of the Strixhaven students. Sanar, innovative first year. For 2 and 2 Izzet hybrids. They are a legendary creature, Goblin Sorcerer. They have 2 power, 4 toughness, and they have a vivid ability. So at the beginning of your first main phase, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a X non-land cards, where X is the number of colours among permanents you control. For each of those colours, you may exile a card of that colour from among the revealed cards, then shuffle, and you may cast the exiled cards this turn. So every turn it just kind of digs down through your deck and exiles the cards that you've dug through, and then you can cast some of them for each colour that you have. So putting Sanar in a red-blue deck, for instance, if Sanar was out, they are both a blue card and a red card, but you would then, at the beginning of your first main phase, reveal the top 2 cards if you only had blue and red permanents, because Sanar is both. You'd reveal the top 2 cards. Reveal the top 2 non-land cards. So if you revealed 2 lands, you'd go no, next card, next card, next card, down to the first X non-land cards. And then for each of those colours, you may exile a card of that colour. So if you exile the top 2 non-lands and one of them is red and one of them is blue, they would go, cool, this is the blue card, this is the red card, these 2 I can now cast. And the rest would just go, okay. We then shuffle back into the deck. So that's pretty cool. So that seems interesting. We then have a Hallowed Fountain, the Plains Island white-blue Shockland. We have a Raiding Schemes. It's an enchantment for 3 red-green. Each non-creature spell you cast has Conspire. So Conspire is a mechanic from the old Lorwyn set. I didn't know they printed this in this set. That's kind of cool. So what Conspire does is, as you cast a spell with Conspire, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control that share a colour with that spell. When you do, you copy it. You may make new targets for the copies. So this makes every non-creature spell you cast copyable, as long as you tap some creatures that share a colour with it. Specifically 2 creatures that share a colour with it. That's kind of cool. Formidable Speaker. 2 and a green for a creature elf druid. 2 power, 4 toughness. When this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. And 1 and tap, you may untap another target permanent. Pretty nice. We then have Ashling's Command. This is another sort of callback to various printings of cards that do this, like modal spells. And this is a cycle of cards where they care about, again, the creature type cycle. So Ashling's Command is the elemental one. 3 blue-red, Kindred instant elemental. You may choose 2 of the 4 modes. So the first one is create a token that's a copy of target elemental you control. I think all of them have that mode or that equivalent of that mode. This one then also has target player draws 2 cards. Ashling's command deals 2 damage to each creature target player controls, or target player creates 2 treasure tokens. So that's quite cool. We then have Gloom Ripper, 3 black for a creature elf assassin, 4 power, 4 toughness, and when this creature enters, target creature you control gets +X+0 until end of turn. Until end of turn, and up to 1 target creature an opponent controls gets +0 or -0 -X until end of turn, where X is the number of elves you control plus the number of elf cards in your graveyard. So it's an Elf Matters elf that comes in and goes, you're massive, you die, because lots of elves. Hey, it's the commander of my fairy deck. So Marilyn Fey Ascendant is 2 black, green, blue, legendary creature elf fairy noble, 4 power, 5 toughness, flying. Whenever Marilyn or another elf or fairy you control enters, you exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Once each turn, you may cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of elves and fairies you control from among cards exiled with Marilyn this turn without paying its mana cost. So you get to go, Marilyn's out on turn 5, or turn 4 if you're lucky, because you've ramped into it. I then start flashing in elves and fairies. Mine's a little bit of a mix of the both, but I'm trying to get it more fairy focused than elf focused, because I don't want to just do the stereotypical elf ball, play a bunch of elves. I want it to be like fairy trick stuff. But then whenever you get your elves and fairies entering, you then steal cards from the top of your opponent's decks. So by doing it at instant speed, you can kind of go, cool, on each player's turn, I can kind of steal a card from someone, which is pretty fun, pretty silly. We then have High Perfect Morcant, 2 black, green for a legendary creature elf noble, 4 power, 4 toughness. Whenever High Perfect Morcant or another elf you control enters, each opponent blights 1. And you can tap 3 untapped elves you control to proliferate. Activate only as a sorcery. So we know what blighting does. Because you're making all of your opponents blight 1, you're making them all put minus counters on their creatures. And proliferating is you can choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each of those another counter of a kind it already has. Of each kind it already has, notably. So your opponents who have been blighted, you can just make them more blighted every time you tap 3 elves. That's pretty cool. We then have a Rhyme Fire Talk, 1 and a red, one and a blue, not 1 and a red. Artifact, when this artifact enters, choose a creature type. Whenever a permanent you control of the chosen type enters, you put a charge counter on this artifact, and then you can tap and remove 3 charge counters from this artifact. When you cast when you next cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, you copy it and you choose new copies. So that's quite good for like spell slinging elementals or spell slinging fairies or something like that. And then we have Bloom Tender, 1 and a green. So this is a reprint of an old card with new artwork by Nils Ham. Very pretty artwork, very watercolor. My brain just blanked on the word I wanted to say. Never mind. Pastiche. That's the word I was going to say. Creature Elf Druid. So 1 and a green for a creature Elf Druid, 1 power, 1 toughness, and it taps to add 1 mana of that colour for each permanent colour among permanents you control. I'm trying to remember the old wording of it because it got errated to be a vivid ability in this set. But the old version of it effectively was vivid, but wasn't called vivid. I think it was like tap, add 1 mana of each colour of permanents you control. It was something like that. Like it was a bit awkwardly worded, but that was fine. But it being vivid is then just like, cool, we've just kind of flipped the wording on its head and it now just makes sense. We have Unbury, 1 and a black for an instant, choose 1. You either return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or you return 2 target creature cards that share a creature type from your graveyard to your hand. So this actually reminds me quite a lot of, in the original Ixalan block, there was a spell that did this specifically for pirates, not creatures that share a creature type. And we've seen various iterations of that kind of spell, but this one is just a universal Kindred black reanimation spell that's like, you can get a thing back, or if you've got 2 of them that share a type, you get both of those. So that's quite cool. Meanderer's Guide. 2 and a white for a creature, Merfolk Scout, 3 power, 2 toughness. Whenever this creature attacks, you may tap or untap. You may tap another untapped Merfolk you control. Sorry. When you do, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your battlefield. That's a very good Merfolk. That reanimates Merfolks by tapping things. Pretty good. We then have Slumbering Walker. 3 white for a creature, giant warrior, 4 power, 7 toughness. It enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it, so it comes in as a 2/5. And at the beginning of your end step, you may remove a counter from this creature. When you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your battlefield. This was really good in my pre-release. I ended up getting one of these in alt art. It was very strong because it was just like, oh yeah, I've got a bunch of like little Kithkins and things, like these 1 power Kithkins, and a bunch of the cards that are like, this enters with a bunch of -1/-1 counters on it. No, I didn't have those because it didn't work for those. Sorry, that was me forgetting then. But yeah, it was quite good because it was just like a big blocker that's just like, it's a bit of a recursion for my smaller blockers when I need it to be. It's pretty good. As a rare, it should be pretty good, but it was pretty good in my pre-release. We have a Bile Vile Boggart. For black, it is a creature goblin assassin, a 1 power, 1 toughness, and when it dies, you put a -1/-1 count on up to 1 target creature. So this is just the goblin version of, or not even the goblin version. There is an old goblin that is this card, effectively. It just wasn't an assassin. I think it was a goblin zombie or a zombie goblin. And it was called, I want to say it was called like Putrid Goblin or something like that. It's basically the same goblin. When it dies, it put a minus counter on up to 1 target creature. Or it was put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. I guess this is up to in the off chance that you don't want to be like, I don't want my creature to accidentally die. Like if you've only got this and a 1/1 that's got a bunch of abilities, or an X1 that's got a bunch of abilities, you're like, I kind of want to keep that around. You don't have to put it on that if your opponent has no creatures. Whereas the old one, you would have had to do that. We then have Rhinekin Recluse. 2 and a blue for a creature elemental wizard. Whenever this creature enters, you return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. 3 power, 2 toughness. And our rare for this pack is a Twilight Diviner. 2 and a black for a creature elf cleric. 3 power, 3 toughness. When this creature enters, you surveil 2. Whenever one or more creatures you control whenever one or more other creatures you control enter, if they entered or were cast from a graveyard, you create a token that's a copy of one of them. This ability triggers only once each turn. That's really cool. That's very cool. You just get copies of spells if they're entering from your graveyard. Entering or cast from your graveyard as well, so that's very cool. I like that card. Especially considering it also surveils, so it also just puts some stuff in your